Hi, this is Eternal King bringing you another LOR video today. So I wanted to talk about Dreamlit paths. Now that the dust has settled, I think the expansion has been around for long enough that we can give our final firm reviews of all the cards that are in this set, what's good, what isn't good, why it's good, what decks they're showing up in, and whether or not the cards are competitive. So first off, talking about the one drops, all of these are a bit meh. So Eager Dedicant, again, essentially being hard stuck as a one life card. It is kind of worse than the P and Z vanilla card that just increases its stats every time you draw a card. But it's in Bilgewater, so you know, it's fine. It's fine. It's not going to set the world on fire, and I basically feel that way about all the one drops. I think that in terms of like this being an aggressive set, it does not function well as an aggressive set. So all the one drops here, whether it is Gloom Sprites granting multiple stacks of impact, whether it is Jaro essentially just giving things 1/1, whether it is Spritelings, a vanilla 2/2, or Eager Dedicant being, you know, a growing one life one drop. I think all the one drops are pretty meh. This isn't a set that does well for pure vanilla aggro, you know, aggression value. It does not do well. Most of the top aggro decks that exist in Eternal do not include any of these one mana cards. That's just factually accurate. So even if you wanted to be in these regions, you know, Pirate aggro isn't running Eager Dedicant. Demacia midrange isn't running Jaro Lightfeather. Ionia isn't running Spritelings. Bandle City isn't running Gloom Sprites. Out of all of these, Gloom Sprites is probably the best. Obviously, Spritelings kind of has to be run in a Spritelings deck. So, but again, none of them are amazing. They're all just kind of fine. All just kind of fine. Talking about kind of everything else, though, that's better. Rena's Greatest, you know, I think is a card. It is a card. It grants things 2/2 over the course of 2 turns and grants something cannot block. It is overall better, a better valuation than something like an Elixir of Iron. Now, is it better than something like? Sorry, it's better than an Elixir of Wrath overall. But is it better than an Elixir of Iron? Hard to say. Elixir of Iron's a very good card in Freljord when you want to be like providing consistent open attack pressure. Elixir of Iron is going to be better, but this is much better than Elixir of Wrath. So like if you were running a deck where you wanted a 1 mana solution for buffing the damage of your units, you would be running Arena's Greatest 100% of the time. It is straight up better than Elixir of Wrath no matter what. So we can say that this is, out of the 1 mana cards, probably the best. I think that's a fair statement. 2 mana cards, Glare is obviously very good. The fact that it exists in both Bandle City and Shadow Isles, and it is essentially a pokey stick, means that by itself it's just good enough. And in certain circumstances it's actually better than a pokey stick, because at least if the unit is big, it is still permanently reducing 1 life, which is better than reducing just 1 health by itself. Like it's reducing the damage and the life total of the unit and cycling. So overall, I would say Glare is probably better than Pokey Stick, but you can run both together, and it's quite nice. Grotesque Gift, of course, being very good, comes down as a 2/2 that automatically pings something. It's very reminiscent of the Shuriman card that basically grants things vulnerable as a 3/1. Well, this is a 2/2 that automatically pings something. So Grotesque Gift is a very good card. I don't think there is a world where we can argue that this is not a very powerful 2-drop. Mr. Root being kind of the Ionia cycling tool is also nice. It's basically the equivalent of like Freljord has its 2/1 cycler, Shadow Isles has its 2/1 cycler, now Ionia has its 1/2 cycler. So all of that is fine. Nothing is bad there. Blighted Battle Axe is a well-designed and interesting card. I like the design of the card personally, and you know, there's a lot of keywords that want to have Blighted Battle Axe. For example, elusives, right? You can stick. I've messed around with playing Blighted Battle Axe elusives, and it's not terrible. It's kind of fun. But as we get into the 2-mana slots, you can see that most of these cards are fine, right? Ionia gets its own House Spider with Petal Pixie, so even just by itself is like, it's just a House Spider, and like House Spider is just a good card. So like, how could you review the Ionia House Spider badly? It's a good card. Ionia got some good stuff. Shadow Isles and Bandle City got some good stuff. That's kind of a big part of this set. And some of these other cards here, when we get into the stories, you already know that I'm very pro-story. Nothing has really changed in terms of my opinions on the power of stories in LOR. And as time goes on, they have stood the test of time. So Emperor's Army, you know, best new card in Azirarelia. It's the best thing that's happened to Azirarelia in, you know, I don't know, a year, longer than a year. It's hard to keep track of time, but it's a very, very good card for Azirarelia. Iron Conquest, best thing that's happened to Hecarim. So obviously, you know, you see Hecarim with Iron Conquest and Standard quite a bit. It's just going to be just as good as an Eternal, right? So Iron Conquest and Emperor's Army, they are the two big story winners of the set. Period. Full stop. These two cards are amazing. And then the other ones are more on the okay side of things. Family Reunion, being pretty staple card for Vex. It's not bad. Dewdrop Harvest being a staple card for that archetype, the bounce archetype or the sleep archetype. Candlelit Prayer is okay. If you want to run this in Temple, I played around with it. I think it's fine. But mainly it's Iron Conquest and Emperor's Army being the two best stories of the set, period, full stop. And then, you know, we start getting into more uncertain territory again. Like Allay is just okay. Uncle Milty is just okay. Thundersong is a card that you can play. Dragonsong Dreamer, however, is actually quite good. I'm really bad at Invoke decks, but, you know, I think Invoke decks without Dragonsong Dreamer are just strictly worse than Invoke decks with Dragonsong Dreamer. Dragonsong Dreamer is a very good card. Very, very powerful card. Almost single-handedly revitalizes the Invoke archetype. And without it, there's no point in playing Invoke. So again, I would rate this card in terms of its usefulness not as high as something as Emperor's Army or Iron Conquest, but it's up there. It's a very good card. Soaring Cartographer. Again, I think this is the better Temple card in my opinion. I use both. I use both the 2-mana Story and Soaring Cartographer, but Soaring Cartographer is very good. The fact that you just get to have a 2/3 that updrafts and you get a 3/3 that updrafts now, like that's big for Temple. I think once we see the new Temple lists for this meta, you'll just see Soaring Cartographer in there. Like there's no reason not to run this card in Temple. It just increases the consistency of the deck. It's very, very powerful. The fact that you also get to choose whether you want to updraft higher or updraft lower, it reduces the size of the card pool and increases the chance that you're getting what you want, which might be a Temple. You know, maybe you need to draw Temple in your Temple deck. Soaring Cartographer can increase the chances that you hit Temple. So again, amazing card, amazing card. Amazing card, amazing card. So that's kind of where we're at. So that's like 4 cards that are amazing, and then some other cards that are just like good. You know, good cards, decent value. Glare, Grotesque Gift, Candlelit Prayer, Ionia House Spider, Ionia Cycler. Just like these are good. Bandle City Pinger, like just good cards. Then you have your great cards, which being your Emperor's Army, your Iron Conquest, your Dragonsong Dreamer, and Soaring Cartographer. You know, A+ cards in my opinion. Steel Gale. I've already talked about Steel Gale being, you know, an S level card in the decks that want to use it. So it's great in Yasuo and it's great in Rise. It is, out of all the new Ionia cards that were printed in this set, this is the best one. Period, full stop, it's very powerful. Sunborn Summoning, also very, very good. This is the only champion tutor in the game that actually works in decks with multiple champions, and that's a very good thing. So Entreat is 2 mana, draw a champion. Sunborn Summoning is 3 mana, pick the champion you want to draw and then draw it. That's pretty good. I will pay 1 mana for that any day of the week. So Sunborn Summoning, this is probably the most slept on card of the set. Very, very, very good. Wings Giving, single-handedly revitalizing transform decks and making them competitive. Very, very good card. So again, A+, S tier, A+, S tier, S tier. You know, you're kind of getting the picture there. Next up, we have Veiled Blessing. So Veiled Blessing, I think, is very, very good in Taric Poppy. The fact that it's granting 2/2, 4/3 mana, but it's a permanent 2/2, and then if you play it on a Taric duplicates that, so you're actually getting 3 mana, 4/4, spread out across 2 bodies. Very good card. If in Demacia you're spending 2 mana to give something 2/2 for a turn, in Targon I will spend 3 mana to grant something 2/2 forever. That is very good card. Also slept on, so another A+ there. Cards that haven't aged as well, in my opinion. Things like Rootbound Path, I thought Rootbound Path would be amazing. It just turns out that Ionia has so much great draw already that Rootbound Path gets slept on a little bit. It just has so much good draw in Eternal that it gets slept on a bit. But it's okay. This is like a B. It's a solid B here. And that's the problem, is that like as you kind of get deeper into the set, a lot of these other cards aren't as good. Just period, full stop. They're not quite as strong as you'd want them to be. And that's kind of why some people might be disappointed with the set. Like me personally, I can look at it and be like, wow, there are some cards here that are A+, there are some cards here that are S tier. They're revitalizing archetypes and they're so powerful. And then you have other people looking at it and being like, oh, well, Lily as a new champion, she's a bad card, therefore the set doesn't age well. Yeah, again, Lily is not a good card. Vex is a good card. It's about as good as Ashe in you know, so solid B tier champion. Vex is good. Lux Illuminated, C+. Very playable in certain shells. And in fact, if we look up some of the changes they made to spirit cards in general, they are exceptionally powerful. The things like the change to Inspiring Light single-handedly makes Lux playable, in my opinion. Without the change to Inspiring Light, I probably wouldn't play Lux Illuminated ever. This change is a good one. So Inspiring Light was hard buffed. But I think overall, you know, the set is good. It is basically exactly what I said it would be, which is that stories are incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, and then there are some other followers in the set that are incredibly powerful and incredibly useful, and certain spells that are incredibly powerful and incredibly useful. But then the champions and the overall one-drop power scaling is below average, right? Like, you're not going to run any of this stuff. You know, unless you're actually running, you're not running Lumino Sprite. Maybe even in the Lux deck, you're not running Lumino Sprite a lot of the time. So yeah, the actual like aggressive, you know, they're not blocking Badger Bears. Let's just say that. There's no blocking Badger Bears in this set. 3 mana, 4/4, blocking elusive units. Free value, better than everything else on curve. Like, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get these Eddie cards that just make Eddie better. What you do get is cool story cards that make individual archetypes better, and cool spells that make individual archetypes better, and cool you know, mid-range followers that make certain archetypes better. But it's, you know, for the brewers. I think this set, you know, the way that I would sum this up is that it's not for the average player, it's for the brewers, right? I can take a card like Steel Gale and Pilot Rise to a 90% win rate and show off that Steel Gale is one of the best new cards in Ionia. The average player, not going to do that. They're not going to add 3 Veiled Blessings in their Poppy Taric deck. They're not going to add 3 Emperor's Armies in their Azir Aurelia deck. And they're not adding 3 Soaring Cartographers to their Temple deck. They're just not doing it in most cases. But they should, because if they did, they would probably win more. But yeah, this is Eternal King signing out. I think that Dreamlit Paths was a good set. It was a successful set. It was very sneaky in the way that it helped to undermine Eddie as an archetype in the extended card format. A lot of things were buffed in very underhanded and sneaky ways, and the good players can take advantage of that, and then the bad players kind of won't. That's my feelings on the set. I'm pretty glad that we ended on a high note here. You compare it to something like Heart of the Huntress, and Heart of the Huntress was a very two-dimensional set. You had Nidalee, which when on release wasn't playable. It is playable now, thanks to Dreamlit Paths. You had stuff like Nico, which wasn't playable. I actually like Nico more now that I can tutor her out, thanks to Dreamlit Paths. And then you have Poro King that, is actually kind of fun with Lux Illuminated, right? So I like Poro King more now than I did before. So that's the thing, is Dreamlit Paths is a fun set. It's a fun set with good cards, and a bunch of cards that are not designed to push the power scaling towards more unga bunga style of Eddy decks. Yeah, that's my final word on it. Good set overall, well done Riot, and I hope everyone else feels the same way. This is Eternal King, signing out.